Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm ready to do my first impressions on this sweet little piece. This is the Peña Mula X-Series. So, it is an Enrique Peña design. It is one of his knives that he had built by Riat. All the X-Series knives are Riat-built versions of Peña's customs. So, the Moolah is a knife design within his lineup that I think is probably the most understated in terms of its design language, and I wasn't super interested in it, if I'm being totally honest, until I got my Apache front flipper and figured out how much I adore that knife. So it made me way more curious in all of his work. And he makes a couple of models that I'd like to try now, but this one, once I started to realize his design language and what I like about his knives, this became more and more captivating. And I feel like this knife is starting to kind of take off in popularity, even though it's been out for a while. I think it's been sold out for quite a while. I don't know if he'll be doing another run of them or how it's going to work, but I've started to see kind of a surge in excitement around the model, which is funny because I think when it came out, it wasn't like massively popular when it first released. But people have been saying it's nice all along. I just don't think all that many people were listening at first. Anyway, so I'm going to go over my first impressions. I've carried this for one whole day so far, and I'll be carrying it a lot more in preparation for my full review, but first impressions are in order. So first let's talk about materials, and then we'll go through where I'm at on it. I'll try to be relatively quick and concise and leave a lot of the talking for the full review. But we've got a blade in M390. It has this nice belt satin on here, and it's a good looking blade. You can see it's marked Peña X-Series on this side. On this side, it's just marked M390. Then we have titanium scales on both sides. It is a titanium frame lock. We do have a pivot collar, which I believe is real brass. It could just be titanium that's been anodized like bronze in color, but I think it's a brass pivot collar. Not positive, but no internal milling on these scales. It's just nice slabs of titanium. As you can see, they're chamfered really well. I quite like the way the edges are treated on here. Just looks great, feels great. We have a titanium backspacer and a titanium clip. This titanium clip is not deep carry at all. That was one of my gripes with the Apache as well, even though it ultimately turned out to not really be that much of a gripe, because that pocket clip feels really good in hand and makes using the front flipper on that knife a lot easier, which it also does here. You can front flip this knife, which is fun. That was kind of a weird, I'm like on an angle trying to show you, but it front flips quite well. I like front flipping this knife. So I'm starting to have this clip grow on me as well because it's placed well, it feels good in the hand, and it's a good spot to hang on to for using this frankly phenomenal action. So yeah, we've got titanium, 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 what I think is brass, M390. We do have a stainless steel insert on this lock bar, which doubles as an over travel stop, and yeah, so that's all fine and dandy. Now, let's talk about kind of where I'm at with my typical talking points so far. So, first things first, ergos. This knife feels great in my hand. The size of it is excellent. I really like how much of a full purchase I get on here without having a bunch of extra handle. I can choke up onto this flat spot and put my thumb up here, which is really nice. It's a very comfortable way to hold the knife, or I can put my finger kind of down in this groove where it feels like it's supposed to go. The rest of my fingers follow in. It's great. Saber grip, hammer grip, feels awesome. Draw cut, super good. It's a really neutral handle, so no surprise there. Reverse grip, draw cut, excellent, and reverse grip is phenomenal. This reverse grip is actually kind of a highlight of the knife for me that I wasn't quite expecting. It just feels really good in a reverse grip, and I've got a great spot. Like I talk about often in a reverse grip, I love having a spot to put my thumb, so that if I was piercing down into something, that's a method of retention. I can hold on to the top of the knife, thus keeping my hand from slipping down onto the blade. So all the grips are all good. Yeah, it's really comfortable. Now let's talk about action. This knife runs on bearings. It is consistent with all of the good Riat actions I've ever felt. I can middle finger flick it super easily with the stud. I can thumb flick it super easily with the stud. And I can, of course, front flip it with that jimping up there. All three methods work great, they're reliable, they're smooth. On closing this knife, it's also really smooth. This blade isn't super big and heavy, but still, it's just glassy and it's great on deployment and on closing. Then nothing I would change about the action on this knife. It just feels really good. As thumb stud knives go, this one is supremely fun. Thumb studs are not my favorite deployment method. I've got shirts and stickers and all that say holes are greater than studs. I stand by that. Holes are greater than studs. I would probably like this knife a little more if it had holes instead of these studs. But as thumb stud knives go, goodness, it's fantastic. So, action is good. Ergos are good. Carry, so far, has been pretty good. I don't think carry's going to end up being one of my favorite features of this knife because, like I said, it does not have a deep carry clip, and deep carry is my preference. This one really, it carries about that much sticking out of the pocket, so you get a generous amount of knife sticking above the line of your pocket. It's also, because it's not internally milled or anything, it's a little bit hefty. Now in hand, the weight feels welcome. I like the sensation that I get in this knife from the weight because it just feels kind of confidence inspiring. But for its size, I have several other knives that are really comparable in size that are noticeably lighter than it is. It's not too heavy. It's not that big, so there's not much size to add weight here. So it's not crazy, and it's nice and slim this way. It's fairly slim this way. The profile is very comfortable in pocket, but it is a little bit heavy for its size compared to other knives similar to its size that I have and carry often. So the weight is really the only gripe there other than the clip. But like I said, the clip, ergonomically, works really well for me. It feels good in hand, it's not a hot spot at all, and for using the action, it's something that's very pleasant to hold on to and get a good purchase on the knife to deploy it. So there's pluses and minuses there with the clip. I wish it carried deeper, but I like the way it feels and the way it operates. So in terms of going in and out of pocket, another thing worth mentioning, the way that this lock bar is cut, you will see there's these ridges in there. Whereas normally this kind of pocket, I actually don't have another frame lock next to me. It's in my pocket. Oh, this one's cut internally. But if you look internally here at where this frame lock is cut, you'll see it's just a pocket that's cut out. There's not notches like there are. There's a beard hair on there. Like there are on here. So these notches, I'm not sure. His customs don't have that. I don't know if it's a tolerance thing, if that makes it perform better as a frame lock, but it is a little snaggy in and out of pocket. On certain pants I feel it more than others. I've put this knife in and out of pocket in I think 3 different pairs of pants now just to feel how it goes. But when I carried it all day, I was wearing fairly thick pants, and it wasn't a problem going in and out, but it's just a little bit toothy. You kind of feel it going in and out. And I imagine if I carried this knife all the time, it would shred my pockets much faster than knives that don't have that same, it's almost like little serrations under there. So I don't know if there's a reason for that, or if they just thought it looked cool or what. I think it would be better to omit that and just have it be a more normal, just kind of pocket under there that didn't have these teeth in it. But it doesn't ruin the knife for me. And I don't feel it in hand or anything. It's not a problem for the ergos. It doesn't bother me in any way other than sliding it in and out of pocket can be a little snaggy. The last thing to talk about is cutting performance. And I actually used this knife pretty heavily the day that I carried it. And I'll be using it quite a bit more, I'm sure. But this M390 has done well for me so far. I haven't done nearly enough that I should be noticing any damage to the edge, but I haven't noticed any, so no reason to be alarmed yet. And this blade grind is done quite well. It's a flat grind, and as you can see, it comes up, I don't know what you'd call that, 60 or 70% of the blade, and it gets down to a nice edge. Not the thinnest, sliciest thing I've ever experienced, but it's not overly thick either. It's just a good kind of standard EDC thickness. I like where it's at. We've got a handsome swedge up here, which does, I think, enhance the tip quite a bit in terms of its piercing abilities. It's a good working, simple drop point, that looks classy. And I processed quite a bit of cardboard with this knife, and it worked well. It's a good combination of, like I said, the blade grind is good, the edge that's on it is super sharp, it's a blade shape and length that is easy and comfortable and convenient for me to use for EDC tasks, and then the fact that the ergos are so good, it's really, really great. One thing I didn't mention too, I actually really like this jimping. I usually harp on jimping because I oftentimes prefer for it to not be there, but the jimping right here, in the most typical spot that anyone ever puts jimping, it actually makes sense for me in a saber grip. I found this jimping on this knife, where it is, worked really well. I think a lot of people put jimping right in that spot on their designs, and that's not actually where your thumb goes, based on kind of how the ergos work on the knife. Now I can cheat my thumb forward a little bit to get even more kind of forward pressure on the knife, and I do that as well. But right here is where my thumb kind of naturally lands in a saber grip with this handle shape. So this jimping is nice and tightly spaced. It's not overly harsh. It's just a good traction point, and I like it. It's well done jimping. So bravo for that. I don't often say good jimping, but this is good jimping. So yeah, the cutting performance is good. The ergos help that. The blade grind is great. It's sharp. It's just a good all-arounder kind of EDC knife, I think. Could it be a little lighter? Sure. Would I love it if there was a deep carry clip on it? Yes. But all things considered, the way that this knife is built, it's just really nice so far. And the action is addictive. It's just a lot of fun to play with. The fact that I can middle finger flick it makes me like it so much more than if I could only thumb flick it. But even thumb flicking it, it's a very pleasant knife to use the thumb studs on. And then you add to that I can also, did that weird because I'm on camera, that I can also front flip it. It makes it extra fun. That's just, it's a nice little bonus feature in there. So yeah, I really like this knife so far. I'm excited to see how it goes as I keep it in pocket, and I'm excited to keep putting it in pocket and using it some more. It's a well done knife from a designer that I'm really kind of vibing with lately. Enrique Peña's work is just excellent, and the more of his X-Series knives that I experience, the more I'm thinking one of these days I may need to try out one of his customs or something. We'll see. They're not cheap at all, but I really like his design language. I like the way his knives feel in my hands. I like the way that they work for me, so I'm digging this one. Anyways, this is the Enrique Peña Mula X-Series. I think I said all the right words for it. Anyways, that's what this knife is. And so far, I'm definitely digging it. It is a very nice knife. And there will be a full review soon, so be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.